Hello again, it's the OhioRAAM show coming to you from Southwest Ohio. We're recording this on the 26th of February. Up here in Ohio, it is going to be 0 again tonight, very cold. But this show won't air until, about the middle of May. May 17th, I think, is probably when it will air. And we're going to go down to Texas and visit with Dustin Dinh and his crew chief, Manny Casillas, in a little bit here, but before we get started, let's talk a little bit about the OhioRAAM show and what we're about here. The OhioRAAM show comes to you from Southwest Ohio, sponsored by the first 2 time stations of the Race Across America in Ohio, time station 42 in Blanchester, and we always appreciate people coming by there to visit. We think we're a great place if you're in the Midwest to see the race because we're at a strategic location. It's when the teams are catching up with the solo riders, and so here's a place where you can see lots of riders, and our time stations are open 24 hours a day, and you can come there if you are a fan or want to learn more about the Race Across America. Just come. And there'll be people there who can tell you what it's about and what's going on. And while we're talking about that, let's talk about dates. The race solos start on June the 16th, and the teams start on June the 20th, 4 days later. But the teams, of course, move much faster than the solo riders. So we expect between June the 22nd and the 27th, they'll be through here. And a little later on, we'll have a show in which we tell you how to be more specific. We can zero that now. We can zero it down to within an hour or so when we expect particular riders through. So we'll be talking more about that. Along about the first show in June, we'll have something about that so you can see that there. Meanwhile, I'm host of the show, Lee Kreider, as I was ready to enter the 3rd year. And by the way, although what time this show airs, it's old news, but I want to put a thanks out to our people over at Blanchester, time station 42. We had quite a situation here in Southwest Ohio. One of our police dogs, Carson from Wilmington, got loose from his where he was being boarded, and he spent 61 days out in the cold and snow, people trying to find him. Police dogs are trained to be somewhat elusive, and so it required the presence of his handler to bring him back into civilization. But I want to thank the McFaddens, Amy and John, and Bob Griffith there at time station 42. When they learned that he was missing, they jumped on their bikes and started riding up around through the countryside looking for him. I understand there was many thousands of people doing it. Well, Carson has been found. His handler opened the door of the police car, and he jumped in. And the word is that he is just like he always been, and he's happy again, and we're glad for that. Thanks, guys, over there in Blanchester. You put your bikes to good use, although you weren't the ones that spotted him. You certainly helped in that, and we appreciate that a great deal. Well, that's enough of that. Let's go down to Texas, where we're going to first of all meet Dustin Dinh, who is a solo rider in RAAM this year. Dustin, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good. Thanks, Lee.
Hey,
Thanks
Dustin.
for inviting us.
Yeah, you know, thank you for. We've had quite a time getting this thing scheduled, haven't we?
Well, we got to square out. So.
We got it squared out, and we had a good start. But I appreciate you guys taking time because, I mean, you're busy training and riding, and you do have a life outside the bicycle. Tell us what puts bread on the table for you, Dustin.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
I says, what keeps the food on the table at your house? What do you do?
Well, I am a dentist in Georgetown. I've been in this community for the last 7 years. I'm a general dentist, and got a great staff that support me in the training that I have, and just been really supportive of the RAAM also that we have coming up.
Well, I was looking at your little bio sketch that you sent me here. You haven't been in cycling all that long, have you?
I've been cycling since 2012. That's when I first started. So I'm still relatively new at this.
And you had an old bike?
Well, I have close friends that are into cycling, but at the time, before I got into cycling, I just couldn't imagine being on a bike for 2 hours or an hour. It seems pretty boring to be on a bike that long. And I bought an old bike from a friend of mine that races, and it just sat in the garage for 6 months before I even pulled it out to use it. And we went on our first barbecue ride, and you know, the tires were flat, and I didn't know the proper preparation for the beginning of the bike ride, and that's how I got started into my first bike ride.
And so here you are 3 years later, signed up for the mother of all bicycle races, RAAM, but you've had some steps in between, haven't you?
Well, the first ride that I did was we call it the bike for beer and barbecue ride. So the first day is a 2 days ride, and the first day is 70 miles, and the second day is 50 miles. And getting through that first 70 miles in the Texas Hill Country was very challenging, especially that I haven't done any riding prior to that. And all bets was that I wouldn't be able to finish on the second day. And the second day was tough, you know, with the sore saddles and all. I was able to manage to come across the finish line. But after that, I did the MS 150 that same year, and a couple of other big rides, like the one loop around Lake Travis, that really kind of got me started to thinking about RAAM. I think a friend of mine, Bryce Hendricks, he mentioned about RAAM, and I looked it up, and it seems really interesting. When I was in college, we talked. I have two other friends, my friend Chin and Adam. We talk about seeing the U.S., you know, biking across the U.S. But back then in college, we were talking about maybe taking 2 months off or 3 months off to do it. But this is 12 days, so it's pretty extreme, and it's going to be a big challenge for us.
So I see that in 2013 you did a RAAM challenge at the one down in Texas.
The 20. Are you talking about this year or?
2013.
Oh yes.
And that's Brewski.
Okay. So after being a year introduced into cycling, I started cycling in June. In 2012. So a year after that, the idea crossed my mind to qualify for RAAM, and I haven't done ultra cycling. I've never been introduced to 24 hours of cycling, so it was all new to me. The nutrition was new to me, but I have a really great group of friends that support me, help me sack. Bryce Billing, Josh, David O'Toole, Eleanor, and Javier. I think I got all the names, but if I'm missing anybody, I'm sorry. But they helped me in getting through that RAAM challenge, and the RAAM challenge was 34 hours. And at the time, I did the math, and I thought I can finish it in maybe 32 hours or 30 hours. But that wasn't quite realistic at all, because I felt really good up into 160 miles or 170 miles. and my nutrition wasn't down, and I thought it was a good idea to eat a chicken breast. I cooked a bunch of chicken breasts and brought and ate the whole chicken breast, and an hour and a half, 2 hours into it, threw everything up, and for the next 4 or 5 hours, I couldn't keep anything down, couldn't keep any fluid, no food. But my whole crew, they were there for me, supporting me and pushing me through. And I didn't even know this, but they were talking behind my back saying, okay, guys, who's going to tell Dustin that, maybe we need to stop, because I wasn't looking good. My pace slowed down to 8 miles an hour. And my friend Josh, in the middle of the night, around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, he has to drive 50 miles to find some sort of fluid or food that I can put in my system so that I can keep going. And he came through
Hey, Justin.
for that.
Let me interrupt
Yes.
you for just a minute here. I've got to take care of this dog. I'll be back in about a minute and a half. Keep telling me about this, and we'll be right back, okay?
Okay, got it.
All right.
Right.
Tell me
Sure.
about that, Ron.
Right. So, if RAM Challenge in Texas, it's 383 miles, but it's extremely hilly, and I had friends that was riding with me to help me, encourage me, make the time pass, and things like that. So the first leg, my friend David O'Toole did maybe 100 miles or 110, 20 miles with me. And then the next leg, my friends Bryce biked with me, and I remember coming up this huge hills, and we stopped halfway. Well, coming up halfway, I thought I was completely done with it. And of course, Bryce was, fresh legs. And but the hills just kept on going. And there was a storm, a cold front that came through. And I remember at 11 o'clock, it was pouring down, and it was I forgot what when the icicle coming down. It was it was very cold, and there was basically ice coming down, and we were just riding through that. Bryce and I. At first, we were chatty at first, but after at 11, 12 o'clock at night, and we were cold, and we were just grinding it through. But they were great to support me through that.
Good. Well, thank you for carrying on. My dog, Brewski, this is the time of night. He's got an internal clock that he gets his nighttime treat. And I'd kind of forgotten about preparing to give it to him. So he came in here, tell me, hey, I don't care. You may have a show going on here, but by golly, it's time for my treat. So that's what that's all about. Thank you, guys. Well, I'm sorry about the interruption. Anyhow, we've been talking about having you on the show, but meanwhile, back at the ranch, I saw you were down at Sebring. How did you do down there this year? Sebring 24, you told me.
Sure. So I usually work Monday through Thursday, and after Thursday, my friend David Baxter and I, he and Jeff Newberry, they kind of introduced me into runneering, is the long distance. So David Baxter mentioned that there was a race down there, so we drove from here to Florida, and we got there around Friday at 5 o'clock, checked in, and the race was 6 o'clock the next day. And we raced all day, and David did phenomenally well. I did 353 miles in 24 hours, which was reasonable. It was a good show. But I'm still working on my fitness and trying to improve that. And but it was an experience to race with some of the famous racer out there, and it was a really good experience for me to get to know them and just be on the same race that they're in. So it was a good experience for me.
Yeah, well, there was some remarkable performances down there this year, and I've been looking at those stats, and they're quite remarkable. Well, Dustin, we want to get on here and introduce your crew chief, Manny. I had to adjust your mic there a little bit, Manny. How you doing, Manny?
I'm doing well. How are you?
So you're going to be crew chief for Dustin this year for Race Across America 2015. Is that correct?
I am. Looking forward to it.
And are you a rookie at this?
No, this is actually going to be my seventh RAM.
Oh, okay. And who have you worked with before?
Team Type 1, Team Type 2, United for Health. Who's um, what was the other one? Team Amgen, and then I've crewed with Dave Preston and Rick Schultz before, so have a few under my belt.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And what kind of a crew have you got lined up? Is it pretty well fleshed out? Or you need people?
Yeah, well, we got some new people, some people that he's recruited, and a few that I've recruited, and through my experience, it's really about getting the positive attitudes and the people that have the personalities that are going to get along no matter what happens out there. As we all know, things happen out there.
They do indeed. And one of the things I've got to bring this subject up. Uh, Unfortunately, uh, I saw something later, and I got a photo here I picked up somewhere, Manny. Let me show you this of this bus. Has this bus ever developed into anything you're going to be able to use?
Uh, that will be for the future because maneuvering that bus is very difficult. And in the future, I'm planning to do like a 8-person team or a 4-person team. So we will have that bus ready for that when that happens.
And wasn't there something about you having to kind of it's all gutted inside? You're kind of starting from scratch there.
Right. Well, the history to that bus was I picked it up in Orange County, and we drove it all the way from Orange County back to here, to Texas. And I love the outdoor, and we can incorporate that into cycling and the outdoors, and possibly RAM in the future when we do the 4 or 8-man team.
So we won't see the bus in 2015. Is that correct?
No, it's not ready. I've been focusing a lot on training lately, so we haven't had much time to do the renovations on the bus.
So how many crew do you have, Manny?
Well, we're hoping to shoot for a crew of about 9, hopefully. We're not there yet, but hopefully we'll have 9 people there. Dustin, tell them about the Sprinter van, though. We may not have the bus with us this time, but we're going to have a great vehicle, though.
Yes. Well, I am picking up a Sprinter van in California, and right now, the reason it's in California right now is just getting a custom roof rack. And we're going to have 2 vehicles for the race. The van that I have now is a Toyota van, and that will be the primary vehicle that's going to do direct support. And our mothership will be a Sprinter van where we will carry our supplies and where the crew can rest up.
You know, those are becoming quite popular, and I see them more and more around here for various things, but I think the first one I ever saw being used in RAM was maybe David Haas, maybe there before, but I remember he had quite a nice little layout, and they had bunk beds in it, and there's quite a lot of room in those, aren't there?
Well, we got the full-size one. It's the 3500 full-size, so we're planning to put bunk beds in there and cargo and the roof rack. We can carry a lot of supplies with us, so hopefully we can meet most of the demands for space that we need for this event.
Manny, you've been on several Race Across Americas as a part of crews. Tell me, when you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and think about this, what causes your forehead to sweat? What do you think about?
people bringing too much stuff. No, I've been part of all types of accidents. Anything from, catching the car on fire, from somebody pulling too far off onto the, dead brush, to people getting RVs stuck in the sand. So, you know, what really causes my forehead to sweat in the morning is knowing that we're working with a crew that doesn't have that much experience, but at the same time, it also opens up an opportunity for us to help people learn the right habits from the beginning. So, Dustin has got the right attitude from day one, and really, it's all about the athlete. So, us as crew, we're just there to make sure that he's able to accomplish his mission. So, we'll just keep plugging on and hoping that everybody gets enough rest. That's my biggest concern, is making sure that everybody gets enough rest so that they can perform at their optimal level when they're, following behind our main man.
Okay, well, good. Then I'm sure you can put your experience to good use. Dustin, you are raising money for some charities. I want you to tell me a little bit about those and what they're about and what you're trying to do.
Right. So the first charity that we're trying to raise money for is I met a young lady. She's a resident up in Temple, Trammy fan, and she introduced me to the mission group that it's Clean Water for Nicaragua. They go down to Nicaragua to put in infrastructures so that the community will have clean water to reduce any diseases that can be passed through the water. And it's through a Presbyterian church that they have medical and also putting up the water infrastructure in Nicaragua. The second charity that we're trying to raise money for is Eastview High School Band. It's a very new school. They've been around for the last 3 or 4 years now. So basically, they have multiple trips that they go on, and we're trying to help raise money to fund those trips that the bands participate in, and also for any instruments or supplies that the band needs, because they're a relatively new high schools, and their funding can be helped by our fundraising. And also, the company my company, Dream Smiles Dental, is doing a lot to help us put this race together. And we're working on a fundraising website that will be up and running in the next 2 weeks or so.
Well, yeah, and we were talking about that before we went on the air, Manny, and by the time this show airs in May, you'll have that website up, and if anybody wants to see that or donate or just to follow Manny on there, that will be in the show notes. It will be right below the video here in the OhioRAAMshow.com. Now, if you're watching the show on YouTube or one of the different sites around the that carry our show as a playlist, you will have to go to see their site. You'll have to go to OhioRAAMshow.com. The link won't be on those sites, but it'll only be on the OhioRAAMshow.com. Find this show, and the link to your website will be there. And by the time the show airs, it will be there. So if anybody wants to learn more about what you're doing there, they can do that. So while I have the floor here, just a couple things I like to point out from time to time, and that is our good friends at ultraracenews.com, John Foote. I always like to give him a little push because it's from his show, or from his e-magazine that I get a lot of the ideas, or I see people on there that I think I'd like to have on the show, and I appreciate that a great deal. ultraracenews.com, and you'll find there, like the graphic says, news, race stories, nutrition, gear, and equipment. There's just a whole lot of things available there for you, and we thank John for doing that job there. And also, we want to point out that when the now and at race time, the website for the Race Across America this year again will be ridefarther.com. And as I pointed out, we'll be doing some work showing people how to use that site effectively. So if you want to see Dustin, how in the world are we going to know when he's going to be in Oxford, Ohio, or Blanchester, Ohio, or any place for that matter? And it's really very easy. And we'll be talking about how that works there. Hey guys, we want to thank you for being here and talking to us a little bit. Before I'd just like to have Manny, is there anything you'd like to share with us or tell us about before you log off here?
No, as a matter of fact, though, John Foote was part of our team with United for Health and is going to be part of our team this year as well. So, also a great friend of ours.
Yeah, he's a good guy, and I haven't seen him for a while, actually. John and I only live about 12, 15 miles apart, depending on how you go there, and which is kind of interesting, isn't it? But I'm glad to know that he'll be on your team. He was a little disappointed last year that he couldn't. I don't know who he was going to help crew with, but his job changed and he got frozen out. Anything else, man?
Yeah, well, I love John, and he was a great asset to our team in 2013, and I'm looking forward to having him as part of this team as well.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot, Manny. Yeah, go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, before we lock out, I just want to say is that I'm so thankful that Manny is on our team, and it's just it's such a blessing with his experience, and I feel so much more comfortable that he's going to lead us to the finish line. We're going to fight for every single miles, and we're going to fight all the way, and we're going to make sure that we're going to try our very best to get to the finish. And I think the team that Manny's going to put together, I think we're going to do well.
Well, and we wish you guys the best. Be safe first of all, but give it your best. I'm sure you will do that, and we hope we'll be seeing you here in Ohio. If I don't see you, there'll be somebody here to.
Will we see you in Annapolis?
No, I'm not going to make it to Annapolis. I have a certain range I have to stay within because of some family situations. But
well, we'll be in Annapolis either way.
Okay, good luck. We'll hope we'll see you there, and you give her your best shot. And we want to say, as we're coming down to the end here, that this is the OhioRAAM show. This is going to be show 9. We're just marching right along there. We're in our 3rd year now, and we always appreciate all the support we get. As I say so often, it's not the support for the show that's so important, but the support for ultra cycling and for the Race Across America and cycling in general too. So if you see our show on Facebook or Google Plus or Twitter, one of those places, if you just give us a little boost with a like or a plus, what really helps is if you give us a share. That spreads the word even further. And retweet on Twitter. All those things help get the word out about the Race Across America and about ultra cycling, and encourages people to learn more about it. There have been people who never heard about this before until they have to bump into this show, and actually some of them have become quite interested and I think are well on their way to be fans. So we appreciate that. Again, on the website, you can leave your comments. If you want to leave your email address there, we'll send you information as to when a show is being aired. We won't share that with anybody else. Thank you guys for being with us again. And with that, we're going to say goodbye for today.
Thank you.